Have you ever found yourself promised something incredible, something you really, really want?
Oh, absolutely. We all have, I think.
And then you get impatient, right? You find yourself trying to kind of help that promise along.
Yes. Trying to
Yeah.
nudge things, speed up the outcome yourself.
And, well, it almost always gets complicated, doesn't it, when we try to force it?
It's that classic human impulse trying to grab the reins, especially when, divine timing feels more like divine delay. We think we see a shortcut.
And we take it. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into an ancient story that captures this perfectly, Genesis chapter 16.
Ah, Sarai, Abram, and Hagar. It's such a potent story.
Exactly. We're going to really zoom in on them and the incredibly tangled web they end up weaving, all stemming from that understandable but, well, ultimately tricky impulse.
Yeah. And our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to unpack how human choices, even ones coming from good intentions maybe, or just deep frustration, how they intersect with these big divine promises.
And create unexpected problems.
Unexpected challenges, definitely. And even these fascinating, unforeseen echoes of much older stories within the text itself.
We're going to be using insights from the original Hebrew, which is really cool, to kind of light up the different layers of meaning in this. I mean, it's a real family drama.
It absolutely is.
And you'll see how what looks like just a domestic issue actually becomes this powerful story about relationships under strain, about maybe drifting away theologically.
And these really clever linguistic hints the ancient writers used, signals that point us to deeper connections. It's amazing stuff.
It really shows how our own nature can mess up even the clearest promises. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're in Genesis 16. It's a key moment.
Right after God has made this huge, sweeping promise to Abram about his descendants. His seeds are like more numerous than the stars.
An unbelievable promise. But then chapter 16, verse 1 hits you with this cold, hard fact. Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children.
That opening is so direct.
Mm.
And the Hebrew is just incredibly stark. Just she had not borne him.
Um,
It's not just stating a fact. It's really setting up this palpable tension. It immediately throws this huge gap into sharp relief. The gap between God's incredible promise and the current physical reality. The biology isn't matching the divine word.
And right into that tension, that silence, steps a new character.
Hagar.
Yes, a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. The text is specific, a Shippa Mirit, an Egyptian maid. That detail matters, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. There's this immediate layer of irony,
Right.
because Abram himself had recently been down in Egypt back in Genesis 12.
Right, and that didn't go so well either. Almost lost Sarai there.
Exactly, that whole drama with Pharaoh. And now, Egypt, kind of embodied in Hagar, is literally in his house. It feels like more than just introducing a character. It's like a narrative callback.
Like a hint.
A hint that maybe history is repeating, or at least that new troubles linked to that Egyptian past are about to bubble up.
Okay, so this is where Sarai's desperation really drives the action. Verse 2. She lays out her plan, and it tells us so much about how she's seeing things.
She says, "Behold now, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children."
She blames God directly. It's not just biology. She sees it as divine intervention.
Precisely. The Hebrew verb she uses there is ar. It means something like to restrain or hold back.
So she thinks God is actively stopping her.
That's her interpretation, yeah. God is actively holding her back from conceiving. And then comes her solution.
Go into my servant. It may be that I shall be built up through her.
Now, on one level, this was a known practice in the ancient Near East, surrogate motherhood, essentially. But the language Sarai uses here is loaded with deeper meaning.
You mentioned architectural language. What's that about?
Right. That Hebrew phrase, ule libane mimina, it literally means something like, perhaps I will be built up from her.
Built up, like building a house.
Exactly like that. The verb bana means to build. For Sarai, having children was like constructing a family, a dynasty, a house, or legacy. She's trying to use Hagar as, the raw material to build her own future, her lineage.
Instead of waiting for God's construction plan, so to speak.
It's a perfect example of a human workaround. She perceives God's delay, or what she thinks is God holding back, and she decides to build the promise herself with her own strategy, rather than waiting patiently for God's way.
She's trying to control it, taking matters into her own hands.
Absolutely. Driven by that impatience and maybe a misunderstanding of how God works.
Okay, so Sarai has this plan, rooted in her interpretation of God's actions. What about Abram? What's his reaction? The text is pretty brief.
It's stark.
Yeah.
Almost chilling, really. Verse 2 just ends with, "And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai, They said,
Just listened. No discussion. No, hang on, Sarai. Remember what God promised me directly.
nope. Silence and compliance. And this is a huge moment. That specific Hebrew phrase, Wayuma Brahmam Le Kol Sharai.
It sounds important.
It is. For anyone listening who knew their scriptures, their Genesis stories, this phrase would set off alarm bells. It's designed to create this powerful sense of déjà vu.
Why? Where else does it appear?
Genesis chapter 3. Adam. After Eve offers him the fruit, the text says he also listened to the voice of his wife.
Wow. Seriously, the same phrase.
The exact structure, yes.
Yeah.
Wayuma. Likol. It's not accidental. The text is deliberately drawing a parallel, highlighting Abram's passivity here, his failure to question, his failure to remember God's direct promise to him.
So instead of being the faithful leader, he's echoing Adam's failure in the garden.
It's a subtle but devastating comparison. He just goes along with it.
And the initiative then stays firmly with Sarai. Verse 3 makes that clear.
Yes. So Sarai took Hagar the Egyptian and gave her to Abram her husband as a wife. The action is all hers.
Took and gave. Does that phrasing ring any bells too?
Ding, ding, ding. Another huge narrative red flag. The verbs there are lakwated, watan, she took, and she gave.
Don't tell me.
Yep, Genesis 3 again. It's the exact same phrasing used to describe Eve taking the forbidden fruit and giving it to Adam.
Unbelievable. The author is practically screaming at us here.
It's like flashing neon signs. It's the ancient writer's way of saying, hey, pay attention. We've seen this pattern before. Remember, taking and giving what wasn't meant to be taken or given. It led to disaster. It primes us for trouble.
And trouble arrives pretty quickly, doesn't it? The human workaround. It backfires fast.
Almost immediately. Verse 4 is very straightforward. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. Simple biological fact. Wayaba, Wadahar.
But the relational fallout is instant.
Absolutely devastating. The text says, when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes.
Despised. That's strong.
It is. The Hebrew verb kolah means something like to be light, to be trifling or contemptible.
So Hagar doesn't just feel superior. She sees Sarai as insignificant.
Pretty much. Think about the power shift. Hagar, the Egyptian servant, now carries the heir, the physical proof of the future lineage that Sarai couldn't provide.
So Sarai, the matriarch who came up with the plan, suddenly feels light, discounted, maybe even like dethroned in her own household hierarchy.
Exactly. Her status is instantly undermined by Hagar's pregnancy. The whole dynamic flips, and the tension must have been incredibly thick.
And that tension just erupts, right? Verse 5, Sarai finally explodes, but not at Hagar initially.
No, she turns on Abram with these really cutting words. May the wrong done to me be on you.
Wait, her wrong? She blames him after she orchestrated the whole thing.
Isn't that just peak human nature sometimes? When our own brilliant plans blow up in our faces, it's often easier to blame someone else than to admit, oops, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Absolutely. Pointing fingers is easier than taking responsibility.
And the Hebrew she uses there is intense. That word thoimas often means violence, injustice, or wrong. She's essentially saying, my grievance, this injustice I'm suffering, it's your fault.
Even though it was her idea from the start. Wow.
And she doesn't stop there. She escalates. She reminds him, I gave my servant to your embrace. Like, I did this generous thing for you.
Oh.
But when she saw she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Then she brings out the big guns. May the Lord judge between you and me.
Whoa. Calling on God to judge between them.
Yes. Yeshvutz WH Benu Benika. Appealing for divine arbitration like that is a really serious step. It shows just how deep her distress is, how completely the trust is broken down between them.
So the whole situation is just chaos.
Yeah.
Total relational breakdown. Sarai versus Abram, Sarai versus Hagar, Hagar looking down on Sarai.
A complete mess. Profound relational strain, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you see that clear theological drift trying to build the promise themselves instead of trusting God's timing.
Plus those really powerful echoes of Eden we talked about. Listen to the voice, took and gave. The language itself reinforces the sense of repeating past mistakes.
The Hebrew really does highlight the mess, doesn't it? The tangle created by human impatience, by trying to control things.
Okay, so the family's in turmoil. Abram's passive, Sarai's angry and blaming, Hagar's pregnant and feeling superior but also vulnerable. Does the story just leave them there in that human-made disaster? Or does God step back in?
No, this doesn't just end there. And this is crucial, because amidst all this human mess, the narrative takes another turn. Sarai, in her anger, mistreats Hagar so badly.
Right, Hagar runs away.
She flees into the wilderness, desperate, alone, probably feeling completely hopeless. But it's right there, in that place of vulnerability, that the story shifts again.
The angel of the Lord finds her.
Exactly. And this encounter is amazing. He doesn't just condemn her or send her back empty-handed. He gives her specific instructions: go back, submit to Sarai, which must have been incredibly hard advice to hear.
But he also gives her something else, doesn't he?
Yes, a promise.
Yes.
A profound promise about her son, Ishmael. He tells her Ishmael's name, which means God hears, because God has heard her affliction. And he promises her that her descendants will also be too numerous to count.
So God makes a promise to Hagar too, echoing the promise to Abram in a way.
In a way, yes. It's astonishing. It shows that God's plan wasn't actually derailed by Sarai's shortcut or Abram's passivity. His purpose finds a way through the mess.
And he meets Hagar, the Egyptian servant, the one caught in the middle, with mercy and a future.
Exactly. It demonstrates God's proactive mercy, reaching out to the vulnerable, the outcast, right where they are. He's keeping his overall promise on track, but maybe not in the linear way Abram and Sarai expected. He works within the consequences of their actions.
That adds such an important layer. It's not just about human mistakes. It's also about God's response to those mistakes.
It brings a vital balance.
Yeah.
So, yes, we see the relational chaos, Sarai versus Abram, Sarai versus Hagar, Hagar versus Sarai. We see the theological drift, the attempt to build the promise manually. We hear those echoes of Eden.
Took and gave. Listen to the voice.
Right. But woven through it all is God's active engagement. His hearing of Hagar's cry, his provision for her, his keeping the larger story moving forward. The Hebrew truly shows the human mess, but also the persistence of divine oversight and mercy.
It's incredible how those specific word choices, those echoes, connect everything across the narrative, isn't it? It's like the text itself is teaching us how to read it.
It really is. The ancient authors were incredibly skilled.
So, bringing it all together from this deep dive, what's the big takeaway?
Well, I think a key insight is just how easily human attempts to help God, to rush a divine promise based on our own timeline or understanding, can lead to, well, a much bigger, often much more painful relational tangle.
Things get complicated fast.
They really do. Yet even in that self-inflicted chaos, the story shows that God's promise isn't ultimately fragile. It finds its path. It moves forward, often in surprising ways that demonstrate his mercy and his engagement, even with the fallout of our choices.
So this isn't just some dusty old story. It feels very more.
Absolutely. It's a mirror, really.
And it kind of asks you, doesn't it? It asks you, our listener, to maybe think about moments in your own life. Where are you tempted to help things along, to take that human shortcut towards something you deeply desire?
Right. What kind of echoes of unintended consequences, relational strains might you be creating even unintentionally by trying to, build your own future according to your own blueprints instead of maybe waiting, trusting for it to unfold in its own time in God's way?
That's a powerful thought to sit with, trying to build it ourselves versus letting it be built. Thank you. That was a fascinating deep dive.
My pleasure. It's a story that keeps on giving.